What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you the cover deck from Chaos Origins, and that is Ritual of Light and Darkness, or also known as ROLAD, which I think is kind of a cool name, nickname for it. It could be considered as the Chaos deck as well, but it really isn't a lot of Chaos, because that's that and then Black Chaos. But anyway, I took this deck to locals. I actually did really well with it. I had a lot of fun with it. My matchups weren't like the top metas of cool tunes, but it was a lot of rogue matchups that I felt would give this deck a lot of issues. So it was Sky Strikers, which I think is just a generally really good anti-meta deck right now, especially with direct ways of being able to target these cards. And these cards are both unaffected by activated effects from your opponent that don't target. Then obviously they have multiple ways to out Mind Shuffle. The second matchup was Yugioh, and the only reason I was worried about Yugioh was quite simply, they don't care that my monsters are unaffected. They can just pretty much slam down a Yugioh, punch into it, and then me as the player takes the damage, not the monster on the field. And then finally it was up against Elf Note Centurion, which is actually a really good back and forth duel. And was a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the profile, show you what I've got. This is the Fallen and Albaz like Red Dragon Archfiend version of the deck. It's kind of like my more fun version of it. I enjoy it more than the Azamina version. I feel that the Azamina has a higher ceiling going first, but I think this has better balance overall. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Starting off with the two ritual monsters, you play one Magician of Black Chaos and one Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Light and Darkness. I'm actually really happy with these overarts because the overarts themselves aren't that incredibly expensive. And if you just wanted to get a secret rare, like just look how cool they look together. Just absolutely amazing. If you wanted to get just normal secret rares and you're not too fussed about the overarts, again, they're really cheap. So, Magician of Black Chaos. Ritual summon this card with Light and Darkness Ritual. It's unaffected by your opponent's activated effects unless they target this card. This card, your spells and traps cannot be destroyed by a card effect or banished by your opponent's card effects to be specific. Only each of your phone effects once per turn. You get to, if it's special summoned, you get to target a spell card, add a spell card from your graveyard to the hand. And then a trigger effect or activated effect, you get to target one card your opponent tries and banish it face down. The Blackluster Soldier is your aggressor, because this one, again, Ritual Summon it with Light and Darkness, can't be destroyed by battle, and it's unaffected by your opponent's activated effects unless they target. On Special Summon, you target a card your opponent controls and banish it. When it destroys a monster by battle, it gains 1500 attack, and then you can make it attack again in a row. It doesn't have to attack a monster, it can attack directly, but the idea is you've got your aggressor, you've got your defender. Both of these are like insanely good for the deck. So I'm just going to try and line those up there. Then the card you play free of is Free Black Chaos. So this card's actually a lot better going second, but it's still really good going first as well. So it can't be normal summon a set, it must be special summon from the hand by shuffling a spellcaster or warrior ritual from the hand or grave into the deck. You can only special summon it once per turn, no matter which way you use that way. You can discard this card to place a continuous trap card that mentions Light and Darkness Ritual from the deck or grave face up on the field. And then while you have a ritual spell in your graveyard, this card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. And then once per turn during your main phase, you get to banish two cards your opponent controls, non-target. So it's a very easily accessible 3k monster that's pretty much unaffected, then banishes two as well. And then going first, you use this to discard, and it basically acts as another form of the Griffle, because that will get you access to your Mind Shuffle, and this card's just broken. And I'll talk about that when I get to it. The other card you're going to want to max out on is your Griffle. So you want to be playing free of this guy. So it's a quick effect. So during your turn or your opponent's, you discard it to then set a quick play spell or a trap that mentions Light and Darkness from the deck, and it can be activated that turn. Alternatively, you can discard it, and then the next battle or effect damage you take will be 0. On top of that as well is you can use this card for the entire ritual summon of a level 8 ritual monster that requires that monster. So this, even though it's a level 1, can be treated as like a level 8 when you banish it from the graveyard or when you use it as ritual fodder from the hand or field. Then we've got two Summoned Skull Archfiend. I call it Summoned Skull, but it's Skull Archfiend of Chaos. I love this card. This card's so good. Sometimes I want to play at 1 because you want to get the discard, but then just how good this card is just insane. So, if it's in your hand or graveyard, you get to target 3 other cards in either graveyard and or face up banished, including a card that mentions Light and Darkness Ritual. Place them on the bottom of the deck in any order, and if you do, special summon this card. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you get to send a ritual spell from the hand or deck to the grave, then add a ritual monster whose name is mentioned on that card from the deck to the hand. Only each effect once per turn. So this helps you recycle your ritual monsters, which is really kind of cool. And then pretty much all these cards do mention Light and Darkness Ritual, so you can cycle whatever you want. Then you can also disrupt your opponent's graveyard. Great success. Then I've got 2 Celtic Mystic, which is basically like Celtic Guardian. So this is your only normal summon we use in this deck, so this can be swapped out for anything you want to, but I still really like this. So on normal or special, you reveal your entire hand, and if you reveal a card that mentions Light and Darkness Ritual, you draw 3 cards and discard 2. For the rest of the turn, you can only special summon from the extra deck once, and then you contribute this card to special on a ritual monster that mentions Ritual, Light and Darkness from the hand. Only each effect once per turn. Then speaking of the Light and Darkness Ritual, we play 2 of this card. So it can be used to ritual summon either the Magician of Black Chaos or of course the Blackluster Soldier. But then on benefit, you tribute monsters from the hand or field and or banish monsters from the graveyard whose total levels equal or exceed its level. If it's in the graveyard, you get to add this card and a card that mentions Light and Darkness Ritual from the grave to the hand. But you can only use that effect once per turn, but you can technically activate both of them as ritual spells, or you'd basically add back and then ritual again. So really good. Then I've got the 1 Chaos Magical Hats. So when your opponent activates a monster effect or a normal spell / trap card, choose 3 spells and traps with different names from the deck and a monster in your main monster zone that mentions Light and Darkness Ritual. Special summon the spells and traps as normal monsters, spellcasters, dark level 8 with attack 0 and defense 0 in face down defensition. Their name become Chaos Magical Hats even while face down. Set the chosen monster if it is face up and shuffle them on the field. Your opponent's activated effect becomes destroy 1 monster your opponent controls in face down defense position. So it's a nice way to kind of change one of your opponent's effects, which can be quite useful depending on what you're trying to achieve and what spell you're adapting. And then we get onto the most broken card in this entire deck, which is mental. 2 Mind Shuffle. During either player's turn, you can add a monster that mentions Light and Darkness Ritual from the deck to the hand, then discard 1 card. You can only use this effect once per turn. So it's a hard once per turn, no matter if you've got 2 copies face up. However, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you get to return a level 7 or higher monster you control to the hand. Doesn't need to be a ritual monster. Special summon 1 monster that mentions Light and Darkness Ritual from the hand with a different name than the returned monster, ignoring its summoning conditions. You cannot activate these effects of Mind Shuffle in the same chain. The fact of the matter is, if your opponent keeps activating stuff, you just keep switching around, which is mental. But the benefit of this card is, it lets you recycle level 7 or higher. What card do you play that's crazy in this deck, but also crazy in the meta right now that's a level 7 or higher? For Drollis, Harmonia. That's right, you can Harmonia your opponent during their turn, and then you can also Mind Shuffle it, return it, and during their turn again, get a Blackluster Soldier or a Black Chaos, if you open them up and you're lucky enough to do so, which is pretty crazy. All you would need to do that is you open up a Harmonia, and then you also open up the Griffle, and the Griffle just activates it or sets his face down, and you get to activate it. It's pretty nuts, because then you just go add the Summon Skull, discard the Summon Skull, send the Ritual Spell, grab the monster, and then you go Mind Shuffle, return your Harmonia to the hand, summon down Blackluster Soldier, banish 1 card your opponent controls. It's just crazy. Another card that is incredibly crazy for this deck is Ragged Records of Rights. Now, when I first read this, I was like, oh, it's just like a preparation, and just naturally assumed it only added the ritual monster. Nope. So you reveal a ritual spell from the hand or deck, and if you do, you add any monster from your deck to the hand that mentions that spell. So you can add the Celtic Guardian retrain, you can add the Summon Skull retrain, you can also add the Griffle. It's crazy. And then if a face-up ritual monster you control leaves the field by card effect while this card is in the grave, and you do not control any face-up monsters other than rituals, except during damage state, you get to add this card from the grave back to the hand. You can only activate once per turn, but the other is this is just 3 more copies of your Griffle, which is your main starter for the deck. Then the Fallen of White package. So I'm playing 2 Fallen of the White Dragon and 1 Albaz. Albaz actually puts in huge amount of work for me today. But what I like about the Fallen of the White, again, I know it's a very expensive engine, but you're only playing 4 cards to do so. So you play the 3 Albaz and you play the 1 Ecclesia. You should more than not naturally be playing the Fallen and the Virtuous as well. But if you wanted to, this can become part of your Azamina package. The difference is your Azamina package is like 8 cards at minimum, and then it does adapt the extra deck a lot. You do sacrifice your Fredrolis Harmonia as well, but what I liked about this is that they open up so many different options, because it becomes a Synchro level 8 in the Crimson Dragon, which bridges directly into your starter, and I'll explain that in a second, or it can become your Sword Soul, which grabs you into the brand new Farah, which I'll talk about in a second. Or it can also just go into a generic level 8 Synchro, maybe an Omega, that could cause your opponent a couple of issues. So how does this engine bridge into? So if you only open up Fallen in the White and nothing else, like all hand traps or interactions, how does it bridge into Griffle and your Light and Darkness? Well, that's where you go for the Crimson King, and then for the Crimson King, I choose to grab the Crimson Call. Now, in some builds, people do play the Soul Resonator, which is absolutely fine. You do the exact same thing. You use Crimson King, search out your Soul Resonator, normal summon down the Soul Resonator effect, and search out the Griffor, because the Griffor is a level 1 Fiend, which is insane. But this one lets you add a level 4 Fiend from the grave to the hand, or if you control a Red Dragon Archfiend or a Synchro that mentions it, you get to add such monster from the deck to the hand instead. Now, the reason I like this one is that I felt it, A, doesn't require your normal summon, so it gave me a bit more freedom for my normal summon when I use my side deck, or even if I want to use the Guardian. But then on top of that as well, this also dies to less interactions. Yes, the chances are if you go to your Crimson King will get interacted with as many interactions as your Soul Resonator will. And if your Crimson King resolves, it means your opponent probably doesn't have an Imperm, a Veiler, or an Ash. And then you activate the Crimson Call. And if they've held back an Ash Blossom for the Crimson Call, fair play to them. You obviously don't want to be relying on it. It's just an option that if you only open up non-engine, you go to the Crimson King. And the way that I quite like the Crimson King as well is that it can dodge targeted effects, because I do play the original Red Dragon Archfiend in the extra deck, and I'll explain that when I get to it. Speaking of non-engine, I'm on 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, backed up by 3 Maul Chummy for Warloss. Harmonia as well. Like, this card puts in so much work for me today. A lot of people kind of misunderstood, because the way that the Mind Shuffle works is it doesn't need you to return like a level 8 to then, which you would naturally assume to bring down a level 8. It just returns a level 7 or higher, and you go, cool, so return Harmonia. And even though I'm not ritual summoning my monster, I ignore its summoning conditions and get it into rotation anyway. And I've recycled the Harmonia, so I get to use it again. So, and then speaking of ways to get to Harmonia, play the one at Bestial Magnemate. And then I am playing the one at Farah, the Primordial Goddess. Now, this card, you get to reveal this card and a spell or trap in the hand, and then until the end of the next turn, neither player can activate card or effects in response to the activation of cards or effects with the revealed spell or trap name. Now, massive shout out to Donald, because he actually made a very valid point, which was quite funny with this one. So Donald plays Madolches, and in Madolches he likes to main deck the breakers in the form of Evenly Match and Dark Rule No More. He's now also got access to Pot of Sloths, and I thought it was really funny, because he was like, can you imagine if you go Farah, reveal Evenly Matched? So you don't even need to go like draw phase, standby phase, main phase, battle phase, end of battle phase anymore. You just go, cool, reveal Farah, show your opponent Evenly Matched. They then need to negate the Farah, otherwise that Evenly Match is resolving anyway. And he's like, you can do the same with Dark Rule No More, you can do it with Pot of Sloth. In this build, you can pretty much do it with Mind Shuffle, but you very rarely ever want to see Mind Shuffle in the hand, so I don't use it for that particular reason. I like to use it for its secondary effect. And the most important thing about this is its spellcaster that attack matches its defense, and that's really important for the 3 Champions of Sword Soul, which I'll talk about in a bit. So what I like about this card is if it's sent from the hand or field to the graveyard by a spell or trap effect, not as cost, you special summon this card. And then if this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you take control of a monster your opponent controls with the highest attack, your choice if tied. So the benefit of something like that is that the Mind Shuffle, when you add, so you trigger the effect, and then you add, then discard at the exact same time. So it is being discarded via card effect, not cost. So the Pharaoh will come back, and then your Pharaoh will take control of one of your opponent's monsters. So it's actually quite disruptive. So otherwise you can search it, you protect your Mind Shuffle or whatever spell you have, and then the Pharaoh can put in some work. Now, I never actually saw it at all today, but I can imagine in a longer grind you might end up seeing it. And then the final card I've got is free Super Polymerization, because this is one of the best breakers of this format. The fact that your opponent can't respond, if there is a format where a lot of monsters, like a lot of the Super Polymerization targets are alive and active, this is going to put in so much work for you. If not, you've got crowns, you've got droplets, it's entirely up to you on which one you'd want to go for. So that's it for the entire main deck. Now to show you the extra deck, and then I'll show you a side deck as well. So, for the level 8 synchros that you're actually going to summon through the Fallen and the White, I've got the Crimson King. This is the most important one. So on Synchro Summon, you get to add a card that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend, which will be your Crimson Call. The benefit of this one is when your opponent activates a monster effect, you get a quick effect to banish this card you control to special summon a Red Dragon Archfiend from the extra deck, and it's treated as a Synchro Summon. If you do, its attack becomes double, and it can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Now, the reason I thought that this was quite important is I was having a conversation with people, and I was like, how does this deck out Liga Dancer? Now, I know instantly a lot of people go, well, the BLS will do it. But the BLS will only do it if your opponent has a monster that they can destroy. So if they just went with 1 Liga Dancer or 2 Liga Dancers, how do you out it? Well, Fallen in the White gets you into Crimson King, and then Crimson King, they try and go Liga Dancer to destroy or whatever. Crimson King tags itself out, gets you into Red Dragon Archfiend at 6k, and then that can punch over one of the Liga Dancers. You've then got the 3 champions of Sword Soul. It requires level 4 tuner and then one-on-one non-tuners. If it is synchro summoned, you get to add a level 4 or a level 8 spellcaster whose attack equals its own defense from the deck or graveyard to the hand. You can target one face-up card on the field and negate its effects. Then if an Ecclesia monster or Fallen of Albaz is in the graveyard, you can destroy that card. So it's very good for going second as well. There is a card in the side deck that this actually puts in a lot more work for, and I'll explain that when I get to it. You can technically synchro into the Ecclesia, that is an option for you. And then the other synchro monsters that you can reveal off the back of Harmonia. You got the one Despian Lulu Walith, the other is Send It and get you access. Got the Wind Pegasus Agnista, so it's just one of them ways if your opponent wants to try and destroy your cards on the field, you set them up with Wind Pegasus if you don't want to use one of the card effects straight away, like the Malong or the Pack Bit Agnista. Then for the Super Polymerization targets, I've got the one Garura and the one Mud Dragon. Of course, you can include the new Super Poly target monster, the one that requires 2 spellcasters. You can include, you can also include the Sea Monster of Theseus. It really comes down to the environment and what you're facing. Then for the branded monsters, I've got Rinbram. The idea is you just get Albaz in the graveyard, and then you're either going to go banish this, bring back Fallen in White because it's treated as Albaz, and then Fallen in White gives you Cartasia. Cartasia can then go into the original Fallen of Albaz, and then you can contact Fuse, so it's just a really nice disruption during your opponent's turn. Titaniclad is just another Super Polymerization target, but it's also a target that lets you get access to a Fallen of Albaz from the deck during the end phase. Albion, pretty straightforward, gets you the Fallen and the Virtuous. The Dragon that devours the Dogma, obviously just an immovable object. So again, you want to play as like multiple towers or routes to towers, and this could be quite effective for you. And then the final one, of course, is the Mac Daddy boss monster in the form of Mirror Jade and its Ice Blade Glory. So that's it for the extra deck. Now I'll show you the side deck, and there's a lot of spice in here. Some degenerate, some really effective. So starting off with one of my favorite cards being Free Lava Golem. You do not use your normal summon. You can take out the Celtic Mystic to make this more consistent, but playing both is not the end of the world as well. I'm backing this up with 2 Mulchomi Perulia. I just think it's one of these cards in the format right now that could be quite effective for you. If your opponent is using a normal summon, like if they reveal Fallen in the White, Chain Perulia, you're going to give them a draw off of that. And then if they've hard open up the Ecclesia, you're going to get another draw. And then you've also got the Ritual Summon will get you a draw. Like there's a lot that this can do for you right now. I'm then playing 2 Pot of Sloth. The idea is that I felt with the Pot of Sloth, I could afford to play some of my breakers at less of. So if I wanted to play Evenly or Lightning Storm, you could consider it. For going first, I've got 3 Solemn Accusations. Like this card's just mental. I really like how good this card is. 1 Solemn Judgment. Then we've got 2 Dry and Lock Birds that could be for going first or second. And then the Degeneracy. So for the Degeneracy, in this build, we have the Pharaonic Advent and the Anti-Spell Fragrance. So how does this card work? Well, it's a spellcaster that's attack matches its defense. It is a level 8. So it gains 300 attack for each continuous track card on the field. So sometimes even Mind Shuffle will help this guy out. But once per turn, so you get to tribute 1 monster to special on this card from the hand. So the idea is, you're Fallen of Albaz. You do need the access to the Skull Advent as well, by the way. But the idea is that what you would do is you'd go synchro into the 3 champions. 3 champions would grab you the Advent. Then you contribute off the 3 champions for the Advent. So that's your half part done already. And then all you need to do is you tribute a Fairy, Fiend, or Reptile monster to add a continuous trap from the deck to the hand. You can't special summon for the rest of this turn, which is absolutely fine because as long as you do your special summons first, you're in a good position. And the idea is to get the Fiend on the field, you would then be able to set yourself up by using the graveyard effect of your Skull Archfiend of Chaos to bring it back to the field, and that's your Fiend monster. So once you've done everything, you then use the Advent to tribute off the Skull Archfiend of Chaos, grab your Anti-Spell Fragrance, set Anti-Spell Fragrance, activate during opponent's draw phase. They then need to hope and pray that they have Mystical Space Typhoon or a Fallen the Virtuous, which is possible. It's not impossible. But this is just something that a lot of players are considering right now. I never used this and never resolved it today at locals, but it is one of these cards that at the end of the day, if you're going to a big event with Euros being this weekend by the time this video comes out, you don't want to put yourself at a disadvantage. You need to know that this card exists. You need to know that these are targets that some people will go to. You need to know that this card needs to be stopped if you can't play under Anti-Spell Fragrance. And when we're looking at stuff like, yes, your opponent could chain Cool Tune Synchro, which is fine. And the idea is that they want to get to a mix, a Rico to then Synchro summon off the Rico to then destroy the Anti-Spell Fragrance. That's completely possible. Maybe you don't put the anti-spell fragrance in against cool tunes just because of the way they can deal with it. But it is just an incredibly powerful option that you need to be aware of, otherwise it's going to come back and bite you in the backside. So that is it for the entire profile. Hopefully this has given you a bit of an idea of what the deck currently looks like this. I feel that there are other different options that you can play. So there's a different, so the Azamina package is one option, which I don't mind. I'm quite a fan of Red Dragon Archfiend. I'm quite a fan of Fallen in the White, and the fact that I get to use it with this deck, I actually like the synergies that it has. I don't mind it that much. So yeah, really like this deck. I like what it can do. I still feel, I don't think it's as broken as a lot of people have made out. Like, a lot of people kind of felt that this was the next best thing. This was it. This was the one that was going to topple cool tunes. It's cool. It's fun. It's nostalgic. The extended arts look amazing. But the more and more I think about it, until the next list, I don't see this deck becoming the #1. But I do feel that it can give a run for the money on a lot of decks. And I also feel that it's going to have a target on its back. And as soon as people start to figure out how easy it is to out these guys here, that will start to change on how fearful this deck is, which I hope is the case, because you can pick up a core now. It's the Black Chaos that's quite expensive. There's this guy right here is like £70 right now. But you could have picked up a core at 175 pre-release. And if you were lucky enough and got in early enough, you could pick up a full core at like 120 at sneak events. But now they have started to climb up in price. It's a little bit harder to kind of complete, but it's a deck that I feel could probably go down in price over time, and then it'll be a really fun deck to be picking up as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Do like, comment, subscribe, share. Any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them. For now, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.